In this video, I'm going to share how to build systems in your business so that you can grow your business faster, create a more valuable company, eliminate chaos, and create more freedom in your life. Ready to get started? Let's dive into it. So here's what we're going to cover in this video. I want to start off by talking about what a system is. Then we're going to talk about why you need them, when you should create them, how you should create them, how you should keep them up to date, and importantly, how you should share them. So let's start with what is a system. Systems can be complex, like software or a Tesla assembly line, or they can be really simple, like a checklist or maybe a recipe. In either case, the goal of any system is to reliably and predictably produce a specific outcome. A simple example of this is the recipe for baking a cake. So thanks to the recipe being written down with enough detail to make it easy to follow, anyone that follows the recipe will be able to produce approximately the same result, and that is a delicious cake. So why do you need systems anyway? Well, the truth is there are two really important reasons to have systems in place. There's actually more than two, but there's two that are really important. I'm going to talk about the first one right now, and then I'll cover the second one at the end of the video. So the first and immediate reason to have systems in your business is to avoid chaos. If you don't have systems in place, the most likely outcome in your business, well, it's going to be chaos. Well, it might be easy to memorize everything when you're the only person in your business. The thing is as your team grows, you're going to quickly realize that if you don't have systems in place, well, then chaos is going to ensue, and that's no fun. This is because as the size of your team increases, each person on your team, well, they're going to have their own unique, habitualized way of doing things. And people being people, that means that no two people are going to do the same thing in exactly the same way, which isn't good. So now imagine that you have, say, 20 people on your fulfillment team. Well, what have you got then? You've got 20 different ways of fulfilling work for your clients. Can you see how that might become a bit of a problem? Can you see how that might be a really big problem? In most businesses, there are four main departments. You've got marketing, sales, fulfillment, and administration. Each of these departments can have significant benefits from having systems in place. For example, marketing will more consistently produce higher quality leads. Sales will then take these leads and more consistently convert them into paying customers. And then fulfillment will more consistently make good on whatever the sales team has promised your customers. And then in your back office, well, you'll find all sorts of ways to increase efficiency and cut costs, and you'll never be unhappy about that. With systems in each of these departments, you will see a lot of benefits. You're going to see more predictability, so the same outcome every single time. You're going to see more efficiency, so that's a significant reduction in waste and a reduction in errors and money lost. And you're also going to see more leverage. That's being able to do more, create more, and earn more with less resources. And to put some icing on that cake that we baked earlier, as your company starts to scale faster, your employees will see even greater growth potential for them and for their career, and that's going to make them stick around longer, which is going to be great for you. So put simply, when you have systems in place, chaos will be drastically reduced or maybe eliminated entirely. Employees will become more productive, clients will be happier and they'll stay longer, profits will increase, and you will experience a lot less stress. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So am I saying that you should start creating systems for absolutely everything in your business? No. That would take forever, and honestly, it would be a pretty big waste of time and money. Before you create a system, there's a simple rule of thumb, and you just want to be able to answer yes to each of the following questions. Does it take more than 5 minutes to do? Are you going to have to do it more than one time? And finally, do you really dislike doing it, and would you like to be able to delegate it to somebody else? If you can answer yes to all three of these questions, then yes, I recommend that you invest the time to create a system for whatever that task is. The first part of creating your system starts with having whoever is doing the work to capture what they're doing. Now, some people like to use Loom for this, but I'm not one of those people. I actually created a separate video on why I think Loom sucks for this, and there will be a link down in the description that you can use to watch that video if you would like. So to make capturing your processes easily, we here at Flowster actually created a free Chrome extension, and coincidentally enough, it's called Capture, and you'll also find a link to that down in the description. Unlike Loom, Capture doesn't make a video as you're clicking through your process. Instead, it saves you a ton of time by literally just taking a screenshot every time you click your mouse and then highlighting on the page where you clicked your mouse, so that you don't have to have somebody on your team, be taking screenshots out of Loom, and that's where the big time saver is. So this extension is actually really, really cool, and to really understand it, you should just use the link below, install it, click the pink button. Normally when I show people this, they're like, wow, that is a game changer. So now that's great, but what if, say you don't really know the process for something? Well, then what? Well, in that case, I'd suggest that you look for and adopt somebody else's system and then just customize it to suit your needs. And at Flowster, we try to make that easy by having a massive library of process templates for our users. And down in the description below, you'll find a link to that as well. And there are hundreds and hundreds of them, and we're adding more all the time. And you can just add them to your account and customize them to your heart's content. Even if you don't use them, by looking at one of them, you'll see what best practices are for creating system documentation. So once you start capturing processes and turning them into polished procedures, the next challenge that you're going to face is, how do you keep it all organized and easily accessible? Because if you fail to do this, all of your work, it's going to be a waste of time, because your team, they won't be able to use processes that they can't find or don't even know that they exist. So one effective method is to keep your processes to organize them in playbooks. So for example, you could have a sales playbook, and you could have a marketing playbook, or you could have a fulfillment playbook, or et cetera, et cetera. And so then within each of these playbooks, you'll then store all of the procedures. So in your sales playbook, you're going to store all of your procedures for sales. The cool thing is that Flowster, which is free to try by the way, actually makes this really easy to do. That's how we built the software. So we designed it to be pretty much the same as Google Drive. So you can create folders for each playbook, and then each one of those folders can have subfolders. And we also have a search box. So if you don't feel like browsing, you can literally just type in whatever keyword you want, and it will show you all of your templates that are relevant to that particular keyword. So now that you have systems, keeping your processes up to date is critical to your continued success. And this is actually an area where Google Docs, which a lot of people use to create systems, and project management software, which even more people use to create systems, they're actually going to fight against you and make this more difficult for you to do. And the reason is you need to have process management software to make keeping them up to date. So let me give you an example. In Flowster, we have these things called templates, and then we have workflows that are based on those templates. So let's use an example of something that you might do over and over again, and that would be, say, publish a blog post. So maybe your blog post template has 65 steps or whatever. It has a certain number of steps, and they all are the detailed instructions of everything that you have to do. And at any point in time, you might have 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, depending on the scale of your organization, maybe even more than that, blog posts in various stages of production. And so now in Flowster, you'd have a workflow for each one of those blog posts, and all of those workflows would be based on that one master template. So then you realize that you want to make a change to your procedure. Well, in Flowster, all you need to do is just go and update the template, and Flowster will automatically update all of those workflows. But that is not the case in project management software, and it's definitely not the case in Google Docs. In both of those apps, you're going to have to copy and paste that change 10 times, 6 times, 17 times, which is inefficient, boring, and it introduces the higher probability of errors being made. So if you want to keep your processes processes up to date, two important things. One, employ a bottom-up strategy where the people who are doing the work can have a say, or maybe even have the access rights in the software to update the template in real time without you needing to have a company meeting, etc. And then for the software to save you all that time and effort of having to manually copy whatever you just did to the template over and over and over and over again, because as I mentioned, that is wildly inefficient. How you share your processes with your team will depend on what app you use to store them. In the case of Flowster, we make sharing super easy. Each system that you create is called a template, as I explained earlier. And then when you want someone to actually do the work, you simply run a workflow, like I explained before. It's based on that template. And then you just assign that workflow to one or many people and you give it a due date. It's really that simple. So hopefully by now I've done a good job of convincing you that you should start to document your processes. In fact, I'm sure that a few of you might even be pretty excited to go ahead and get started. And if that's the case, before you get started, let me share two more reasons why you should invest the time to create systems in your business. The first one is this: if you have well-documented systems in place, you are going to protect yourself and your business from your specialized knowledge walking out the door when a key employee leaves. And that always happens. So when that happens, if you've got good systems, now when you go to replace the employee, all of this documentation and that you have is going to make training the replacement, the new person, significantly easier, faster, and much less expensive than if you didn't have all of that documentation, all of those systems in place. And now, drum roll please, to the very biggest reason why you should invest in creating systems. Let me ask you a question. Would you like to be able to sell your business one day? For most of us, the answer is yes. And if that's the case for you, you should know that any reasonably intelligent investor is going to ask you during the due diligence process. If you haven't, they are going to reduce the price because of something called key man risk. So basically what key man risk is you as the owner of the business are the key person. I should call it key person risk. You're the key person because you're the one with all the specialized knowledge in your head. And so when they buy your business, to compensate for that risk, they're either going to tie you in what's called an earnout, which means you got to hang around for longer to get all your money, or they're just going to reduce the price. And in some cases, that price reduction could be significant. So you do not want to expose yourself to key person risk. So if you have documented your processes, well, then you can expect that the price that you're going to receive will at least be at this level as opposed to say this level down here, or maybe even higher depending upon how thoroughly you've documented your business and your business model and a number of other factors. And this is because the buyer is going to accurately perceive your business as being less risky than if you didn't have those systems in place. And the thing that so many small businesses fail to do when they start their business is to have a plan to exit that business. Either it never occurs to them, or they're just too busy on a day-to-day basis, metaphorically chopping down trees, in other words, trying to pay the bills, to ever think about it. So this is not how the savviest business owners operate. Instead, they start with a clear vision of what we want to build. Now, we might not have every step of the journey figured out, but you can bet we know for certain that at some point we're going to sell the company. And because of this, we focus on creating a sellable business. And in doing so, we're actually also creating a scalable business. So if you decide to make this your focus from day one, you're going to make a lot of decisions differently. You're going to have a lot more freedom as a result because a scalable business is much easier to run. A good example of this is my friend Spencer. He started his blog about a decade ago, and back then he was the one doing all the work. Spencer was a workhorse. He also was the host of his podcast. Now these days, Spencer, being the very smart dude that he is, he didn't write any of the articles on his blog, and he also doesn't even host his show any longer. To make this possible, Spencer undoubtedly had to work a little bit harder for a while to create a lot of the systems needed, and then he had to find people that he could train to rely on these systems rather, to run the blog on a day in and day out basis. Now, I'm pretty sure there was probably some growing pains along the way, but the result of this approach is that now Spencer, well, he's the owner, more than the operator, of an extremely valuable asset that could easily be sold for millions of dollars to another investor. I don't know about you, but that sounds better than just being a blogger to me. So So compare Spencer's approach to most bloggers, and you're going to quickly realize that putting systems in place is absolutely the way to go. So here's a question for you. If you're still with me, what's the first system that you want to create in your business? I would love it if you would put your answer right down below in the comment. All right, so let's wrap this up and summarize what we've talked about today. We talked about the importance of systems. What is a system? Why do you need them? When should you create them? How should you create them? How you keep them up to date, which is incredibly important. And then how you can share them with your team. And most of all, how having them will make your company not only easier to run today, but much more valuable to another investor when you decide that you would like to sell the business. So if you've enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would just watch this next video here, as it is, I think you'll enjoy it as well. And finally, if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you'd smash that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Take care. Bye-bye.